Welcome to What If Universe. What if a zombie apocalypse started?
What if a zombie apocalypse started today? Not in movies, not in games, but in the real world. How fast would civilization collapse? Could governments stop it? And what would happen to the planet if humans suddenly lost control? Let's imagine the timeline. Day 1. Everything begins with confusion. In a large city somewhere in the world, hospitals start receiving patients with strange symptoms: extreme aggression, high fever, and a complete loss of rational behavior. At first, doctors suspect a new virus or neurological disorder, but something strange happens. The infected begin attacking other people. Police respond to violent incidents, emergency rooms overflow, and social media quickly fills with disturbing videos. Most people still believe it's just another crisis that authorities will control. But by the end of the first day, thousands of people may already be infected, and the real danger is just beginning. Day 3. The infection spreads faster than expected. Because the disease transmits through bites and blood contact, crowded areas become extremely dangerous. Cities with millions of people suddenly become perfect environments for the outbreak to explode.
Governments begin closing airports, borders, and public transportation.
Hospitals collapse. Emergency services are overwhelmed. Panic buying starts everywhere. Supermarkets empty within hours. Electricity and internet still work. But fear spreads faster than the virus itself. Week 1. Now the world realizes something is terribly wrong. Major cities begin to fall. Military forces are deployed to contain outbreaks, but the strategy becomes incredibly difficult. Why? Because zombies don't fear pain, exhaustion, or death. They simply keep moving. Entire neighborhoods become abandoned. Highways fill with people trying to escape urban areas, but that creates another problem. Traffic jams that stretch for miles, trapping thousands of people with nowhere to go. At the same time, global markets crash. Stock exchanges close. International trade stops. Within just 1 week, the modern global economy collapses. Week 3. Infrastructure begins to fail. Power plants require human operators. Water systems need maintenance. Fuel supply chains stop working. In many regions, electricity begins shutting down. Cities at night fall into darkness for the first time in decades. Without refrigeration, food quickly spoils. Without communication networks, governments lose the ability to coordinate large-scale responses. Military forces try to establish safe zones, but protecting millions of civilians becomes almost impossible. For many survivors, survival now depends on finding shelter, food, and avoiding infected zones. Month 2. Human civilization is now fragmented. Most major cities have been abandoned. Small groups of survivors form communities in rural areas, mountains, or isolated towns. Some military bases remain operational, acting as strongholds against the infected, but resources are limited. Fuel becomes extremely valuable. Medicine becomes rare. Meanwhile, the natural world begins to react. Without cars, factories, and planes, pollution levels drop dramatically. Air becomes cleaner. Rivers begin recovering. Wildlife slowly returns to areas humans once dominated. But the planet is not entirely safe. Large populations of zombies still roam former cities. Animals may begin feeding on infected bodies, potentially spreading unknown biological risks. Month 6. Nature starts reclaiming human territory. Grass grows through cracks in highways. Plants spread across abandoned buildings. Urban forests begin appearing where streets once stood. Many domesticated animals escape farms and cities. Some die without human care. Others adapt and become wild. Dogs form packs. Cattle roam freely across countryside. Predators like wolves and bears expand into areas that were once heavily populated. The earth slowly begins healing from centuries of industrial activity. But human survivors face a constant struggle. Food production becomes extremely difficult. Without global agriculture systems, famine becomes a real threat. Year 1. Human population may have dropped dramatically. Entire continents could have lost most of their major cities, but small communities of survivors still exist. They learn to live differently. Without electricity, without global supply chains, without modern technology. Some groups develop new systems of cooperation. Others become hostile, competing for resources. Meanwhile, zombie populations slowly decline. Without fresh victims, many eventually decay or become immobilized by environmental conditions. Year 5. The world looks completely different. Most skyscrapers stand empty and covered in vegetation. Forests expand into former suburbs. Wild animals dominate landscapes once filled with highways and buildings. Human civilization still exists, but at a much smaller scale. Survivor communities rebuild basic agriculture. They develop local trade networks and slowly begin rediscovering old knowledge from books and preserved technology. The zombie apocalypse may have nearly destroyed humanity, but not completely, because throughout history, humans have always adapted, even in the darkest moments. But this raises an important question. If something like this ever happened, would humanity collapse forever? Or would we rebuild civilization once again? Let me know what you think in the comments.